How important is politics to you? How important is it to your identity as a lesbian?
I'm not that political as a lesbian, but I've gotten more political and possibly more angry with the world the more I know about things, the more I've actually grown up. But I think that's maybe that usual for everyone. I'm more in tune now to things, not just happening to me locally, but I think it's more about gay issues abroad and how lucky we are here to a certain extent compared to other countries. And I think I'm more aware in other countries and less aware in my own. And I think it puts my life here in context and makes me feel quite happy that I'm in this country. You know, like we take pride kind of for granted now. Where, you know, Uganda's just had their first pride. And they were about to push through the death penalty for being gay, and that's just now been revoked. So that puts your life here in, you know, in a really good context. You know, I think that whenever I actually encounter any form of homophobia, I never felt like the minority. I always felt that that person was the minority because that's the person that has the hate and the fear. And I was like, you are a dying breed.
And I think personally to me, I mean, maybe this is one of the reasons why, but like I view myself as a very political person. And I think I would probably, at this point in my life now, prefer to identify as queer than as a lesbian, even though I'm predominantly only into females. And I think a lot of that is to do with the political aspect of that as a kind of, I guess, like category of gay people. But like, yeah. And I think for me personally, having grown up in the environment that I did, it wasn't so much that it was like dangerous, but it was that I was always considered an other, like always an other. And even amongst liberal-minded adults, it was seen as, this is a rebellion. Like, you're just labeled as a rebel, and you're an other rebel. And it's like, I think I'm almost glad in the way that I think that has ended up making me quite political in a lot of aspects of my life. And I think personally for me, what you're talking about was, say, like, recognizing homophobia in the rest of the world, I think that for me has ended up being across the board oppression and discrimination in any way or form. So I'm just hyper aware of it. And I think, like, when I think about, for instance, traveling around other parts of the world with my girlfriend, that's so hard to do. Like, depending on where you want to go, you have to be so aware of it. And even like in other parts of Europe, you're just like, you have to be hyper aware and often hiding of your identity and of something that feels so natural and is like based in so much love. And like, for me, that does often make me think of the way that other people just generally feel, like, across all like boards of oppressed people, I guess.
See, I would call myself a local activist. I don't know if that makes me political, or I think the two are, I in my head wrap the two together of being an activist and being political. And I call myself a local activist because I think one thing that really, really riles me, and everyone who knows me well knows this riles me, is apathy in this country about where LGBT rights are. Everyone goes, oh, it's so okay in Brighton, oh, it's so okay in the UK. But no, we have attacks in Brighton. We have attacks on St James's Street. I know at least 2 or 3 people that have been attacked in Brighton. I've been name-called in Brighton by teenagers. And it's not something that happens it is something that happens elsewhere, and that is life-threatening for people elsewhere. But it's also life-threatening here. There are people that have been attacked in Brighton in 2012 that actually have been life-threatening for them. And I hate this apathy of, we're okay. And also, and even with laws, like, everyone goes, oh, we've now got marriage equality. And I'm not talking about the recent law, I'm talking about, it was like, no, we had civil partnerships. Civil partnerships is not equality. It's a different law. A civil partnership is not marriage. It's not equal. And yet we spoke about it like it was equal. It's not equal. And as much as the governments can give us our rights, they can take them away as quickly, in fact, quicker than what we can gain them. And if we get apathetic in this country, and even in our own cities, then they could be taken away from us.
The fight starts at the bottom. The politician's never going to do anything unless they really, 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 really have to, which means it has to basically like go from the roots up to the very top. So you have to have things known, talked about, and you're right, you can't get apathetic, because then if you start getting apathetic at the level where the fight's supposed to be, the people who can actually enact the powers and really make big changes aren't going to listen because you're not making any noise.
Yeah.
But doesn't apathy come out of being content in what you have got?
Or maybe less aware.
And less aware. But I mean, like, if you are upset of what's happening around you and then you become more aware because you are upset, then you become political.
Yeah. So maybe some people, they don't have bad things happening to them, or they're less involved, or they know less people who are less affected. They're not, they don't feel the need.
Yeah, and I think that would be me, because I mean, I've never actually had any problems, and if I have been called lesbian or anything like that, then I think, yeah, well, that's what I am.
I am, and you're the one with the problem.
Yeah, I think it's an educational issue.
Yeah.
That's well, I just think everybody who calls somebody a lesbian as an insult just has got some slight educational problems.
Yeah.
But as you said, you've had problems, well, not problems, but I mean, you were an outsider growing up, whereas I've never actually had the feeling that I ever had any problems. Wherever I went, I was always accepted as myself, and then the lesbian part might have followed or was there already. But
I mean, I feel very lucky because I've never had anything very extreme happen to me. I'm very grateful of that. But occasionally, when something has happened, I do look at those people and I see them as the minority, because I see they're the one that have got hate and fear inside them.
Do you think, just going back to what you were saying about that apathy coming from a sense of contentedness, or it's just like, do you think there's an aspect of that is to do with the fact that we have had this, like, in a fairly short period of time, massive amount of kind of like rights progression, I guess, of like gay rights progression, and because of that, there are a lot of people now who never really expected to get to this point. So it's like almost a sense of internalized homophobia to not ask for complete equality. It's like, well,
they've accepted it.
We've got this, so you know, it's pretty good.
Be grateful for what you got, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Rather than like actually be like, well, maybe we should actually.
I think
have
in a way,
equality.
in a way, I think we're the lucky generation of the fact that the legacy left by the previous generation who fought for us to have equality, which meant actually now we have services available for us, and switchboards, and you know, and where people, you know, those providing the services have had to raise their game and provide specific services for us. But I think, so in a way, that's created our apathy of the fact that we've had these services now provided for us. Those services have had to, whether they be mental health services, sexual health services, have all had to raise their game to specifically include LGBT health and well-being. But now we've got this complacent issue. We now have the flip side of that is that we go, well, we're okay now, and that means those services aren't going to remain. In the fact, if there's no one fighting to retain those services, then then those services are all going to collapse. And that's, I think, especially with the financial situation as it is, I think that's where there's going to be big issues, because a lot of our services are going to actually collapse because people aren't being political and aren't saying, we need this, and I'm going to fill in that survey to tell you we need it. I'm going to be a stat, and I'm going to tell, to say we need that service still, so that we can continue to live the lives that we do.